Hello YouTube. Today I'm going to be going over the Rainworld Iceberg, which I'm sure all of you are aware what an iceberg video is, and judging by the fact that you clicked on this video, I'm guessing you probably know what Rainworld is. However, for the few who aren't aware of what it is, it's a survival platformer game which has plenty of adventure aspects to it. So today I'll be going over the Rainworld Iceberg chart created by SlenderPL over on Reddit. So without waiting any longer, I'll get right on to it. Rainworld is infamous with its difficulty due to how hard it can be at times. Whether it be the AI or platforming, the game can just be too hard for some people. But for some people, it's also probably a skill issue since they don't play past 20 minutes, which, yeah. Slugcats are the playable characters from the game, with the monk, survivor, hunter being playable in the base game, and the Downpour DLC adding Gourmand, Artificer, Revealet, Spearmaster, Saint, and Hidden is the secret playable Slugcat in the future as well. There's another Slugcat being added in the future Watcher DLC with the same name, the Watcher. Easily a fan favorite of the soundtrack. Kiava's considered one of the best songs by fans, and I don't really have much to say here, so on to the next thing. One of the platforms that Rainworld got ported to was PS4. Not much to say other than the fact that it's a way to play the game. Yeah. The original soundtrack of the game. I really don't have much to say, like, this is just the soundtrack. So, you can listen to it in-game. Yeah. Due to the difficulty mentioned earlier, people tend to review the game negatively thanks to it, which you can see it on the Steam profile of the game, which shows the review score of 66 on Metacritic. However, despite this, user reviews are very positive, which just adds to another reason don't trust gaming news outlets on how good a game is. Instead, look to the fans of a game, or, well, people who played the game in general. It's happened to everyone who's played the game, as Outskirts is the first region you'll end up, since you can only play as Survivor and Monk when you first play the game, and, well, it definitely happened to me. I was probably stuck there for, like, I want to say an hour, which, usually this is just because of the fact that players will either die to they'll either die to a lizard or they'll try to get to a door but just don't have the karma for it and then die anyways. Which isn't helped by the fact that Rainworld's controls are very complicated. Another very just, I don't know, like vague and like pointless one, but thanks to their AI scabs, I guess, are very, very chaotic and funny, I guess. But this really is just an entry of all time. Released January 19th, 2023, Downpour is the first DLC which added plenty of content to the game, adding 5 Slugcats as mentioned earlier, plus the secret one, Jolly Co-op, expedition mode, challenges, and new regions to explore, new creatures, plus much more. The first lizard types that the players will run into, probably some of the most common types. Green lizards have no ability to climb poles and are much slower compared to other lizard types. However, they can still make up for it with their charge attack. As well, they have the heaviest mass of all lizards and are tied with the second or third if train lizards are counted. Despite being called purples in the post, they're actually referred to as pink in game. Well, their technical term is pink lizards. I shouldn't say. There might be somewhere where they're referred to that as in game, but maybe some developer commentary. But they possess average health among lizards and are the first the player can encounter that can climb on poles, which could easily lead to some newer players dying to them since they don't expect it. While the idea of rain being deadly just seems somewhat silly and goofy if you haven't played the game, if players who have seen how hard it can get, it's very understandable. It's not just it's like coming down hard, and it's like that has to be a lot of pressure, which could easily lead to death for things, including the player. Due to monks serving as the easy mode of the game, people tend to not play him, and I guess to an extent hate him. I don't know. It's very vague. A move pulled off by crouching and holding down and releasing the jump button. Learned at the small tutorial at the beginning of Survivor and Monk. There's not much to say about it other than, yeah, it's useful for making long jumps. The song that plays during Survivor and Monk's intro, I really don't. There is not much to say about this. Lizards' heads are armored and take little damage, which, due to the fact that when you just start the game, you're gonna think, oh, I gotta go for the head. It can lead to just you hitting a lizard and thinking, oh, wait, can I not hurt these guys? But they can be hurt. You just gotta aim for the rest of the body. But, however, it's still useful to aim for the head if you're using rocks, since it can be used to flip lizards over. Video Cult are the developers of Rainworld, which this is like not much to explain like some of the other entries on this tier, but this actually feels justified being on it since they are the developers of the game and they made a pretty cool game, not gonna lie. What Fate of Slugcat is a trailer for Rainworld, which is also become a bit of a meme in the Rainworld community. It's like it pops up from time to time. Karma is an in-game system which increases and decreases as the player survives a cycle or dies. Most Slugcats start with a limit of 5, however, Artificer only starts with 1 and Saint starts with a limit of 2. The player can increase their limit up to 10 by either interacting with in-game echoes, or if certain Slugcats can talk to 5 pebbles to increase their karma. Which karma is needed due to the fact that it opens the doors that connect every region in the game. Contrary to Monk Hate, this is just the opposite, which that's kind of a lame way to end off this tier. switchboard of Rainworld to the Switch. I've played this version before, and it's alright. The most common kind of pearls found throughout the game. They possess very little information on them compared to most other vibrant counterparts. Uniquely enough, Gorman can actually craft these using overseer eyes or vulture masks with most other things. Found throughout some regions of the games, mushrooms slow down the time for the environment, allowing players to easily get around and do certain platforming much easier. The Ancients are a former race that inhabited the world of Rainworld. They are responsible for building the iterators as well as the structures that form every region. We don't know too much about them, however we can learn a bit about them from dialogue from Moon and Pebbles, as well as generally observing the environment. Automatic hands is a setting that can be enabled so that a slugcat will automatically grab bat flies. There isn't too much to it. Fluttering around Moon in her chamber are her neurons. Eating these will give the standard neuron fly effect. However, it will also hurt Moon, and eating all of them will kill her. However, doing this is required at least once if the player wants the achievement Stolen Enlightenment. Modifications made to the game by players that can add a variety of changes such as new regions or campaigns. They can also provide cosmetic changes as well as how an existing slugcat looks. This is the song that first plays when the player approaches 5 pebbles. Reindeer have an AI which can be quite annoying at times, especially as the player needs them to navigate the wormgrass around farm arrays. Some more kinds of lizards found throughout the game. Blue lizards are the first the player usually encounters that can climb walls. They have the lowest health out of every lizard and are even hunted by other kinds of lizards. White lizards can climb walls as well, though they also have a tongue they can use to grab onto prey or pull away spears. As well, they possess the unique ability to camouflage their colors to that of the background. However, during chases, they tend to give up if the player traverses to another room. Yellow lizards are unique in the fact that they show up in groups, with one being the alpha. They can communicate with others to corner their prey as long as the alpha is alive. The alpha is determined by the lizard who has the highest dominance personality value in the group, and they have a unique interaction with vulture masks, where the whole group will be scared if one gets scared. Taming is a mechanic the player can utilize to have a lizard follow the player. The player can either do this by feeding a lizard creature such as a centipede or a drop wig. Different lizards have different requirements for how much food they'll need, so something like a red lizard will require much more food than, say, a pink lizard. The player can also tame a lizard by saving it from a vulture that's trying to capture it. Adult newt-newts or noodleflies may sometimes fight each other to take the other's children. That's fun. Found throughout certain spots of the game or on the death of a player, a karma flower can preserve the player's karma level through death, which lasts until the player dies once. Defenseless or helpless scavengers will make weird movements which can be described as dancing. A GIF that was popular at the time, based on the One Among Us GIF. During Survivor and Monk's campaign, the two are guided by a yellow overseer. This guy has been dubbed Iggy. Masks worn by vultures. They can be knocked off by a spear hit by doing enough damage, or pulled off of a dead vulture. Wearing one can scare off most kinds of lizards for 15 seconds, and the player can get a stronger version by killing a vulture king. People on the internet simping for mood. I don't really think I need to explain this more. A repeating cycle which affects all creatures in Rainworld. The ancients sought for a way to ascend the cycle, eventually creating the iterators to find a solution to the great problem. These are teasers for a new game that Video Cult is developing, which can be found on their YouTube channel. Throughout the many regions of the world, the player can sometimes find graffiti on the wall which are made by the ancients. The story that follows Moon throughout the game. I'm not going to go into too much detail since it takes some time to tell, but in summary, 5 Pebbles experiment had inadvertently led to Moon's collapse due to her not being able to get enough water, with her eventually getting back up in a somewhat functioning state thanks to Hunter and their campaign. This is a mod that adds multiplayer to Monk, Survivor, and Hunter's campaigns. This refers to the fact that when raining, time won't progress until a creature dies or hibernates. This can easily be seen in regions where players cannot die due to rain, such as the top of the wall or Metropolis. With that, the second layer is covered. Pearls floating around, 5 pebbles. They don't really have much interesting stuff written on them compared to other pearls throughout the world. Depending on the campaign, some shelters may or may not be active, making the gap in between some shelters larger. The order in which the campaigns take place. Currently, the order is Spearmaster, Artificer, Hunter, Gourmand, Survivor, Monk, Reveal It, and Sing. The green neuron that Hunter starts with contains slag reset keys for Moon, which, when delivered, allows for her to be revived from her unfortunate situation at that point in the timeline. Passages are achievements that can be obtained in a campaign that can be used for fast travel, and they can only be used one time each in each campaign. This refers to a face that a slugcat will make when grabbed by a lizard, which, unless the eyes are X's in a cartoony fashion, the slugcat isn't dead yet, so if the lizard drops you for whatever reason, there's a chance you can survive until it takes you to its den. Brother Longlegs are creatures that can be found primarily in the garbage wastes, which ended up there thanks to 5 pebbles flushing rot out of his system. Throughout each campaign, we can see the rot slowly die down from a Mother Longlegs down to a Brother Longlegs, which, playing it, timeline-wise from Spearmaster to Saint, that would be seen. After eating a neuron fly, the player can find these floating around. They point the player in the direction towards the depths. Visiting an echo in any campaign will result the player's karma level to rise until it either is 10 or... yeah. It is not known what happened to the ancients or where they went. There's no sign of them anywhere, not even in an area like Metropolis where you would at least figured you'd find like a skeleton or a body or something like that. If the player brings blue fruit to Moon, moon, she'll comment how it's actually a pupa, which has led people to believe that they could be pupa for bat flies, since it would make sense. Concept art for the slug cats. There's of course concept art for other creatures, and it's interesting to see how some things change or translated into the game style, since, yeah. The ancients would use void fluid bats to dip themselves in order to ascend and break the cycle. However, this didn't always work, which resulted in some of them becoming echoes that inhabit the world. The different variety of slug cats that inhabit the world. Some have adaptations which were modified, such as Spearmaster's ability to produce and feed off of their spears, while others are more natural adaptations such as Saint's Fur. More types of lizards. Black lizards are blind and therefore use sound to find their prey. They typically inhabit darker regions of the world, such as Shaded Citadel or Subterranean. Salamanders are an aquatic type of lizard found in shoreline, which possess the ability to swim, which, despite being the water lizard, they aren't even the fastest swimmer. Cyan lizards possess a unique leaping ability, which allow them to hop around places to easily grab prey, which, it sounds like I'm not saying much about them, but these guys are dangerous. A product that was produced in farm arrays by the ancients. This is the mod that adds the 5 new downpour slug cats to the game. During Survivor's Ascension ending, we see the slug cat family in a tree. Due to this, fans have speculated that their family is dead. There really isn't much proof aside from this, and we also know that thanks to Downpour, that this monk and survivor's family were part of the slugcat migration. So that's probably why we don't see them again. This is a mod that adds a whole bunch of regions and mechanics to the game. I've never played it, so I cannot comment too much about it. Spore puffs can actually kill some insects, which is very handy if you ever need to take out a red centipede. Just make sure you don't miss. They're the cause for the rain present in the game, as they take in loads of water for cooling, which then gets exhausted out as steam. The steam then leads to rain, which the rain gets back in the ground, rinse and repeat. A once cut feature in Rainworld, slug pups were added back in Downpour, which the player can unlock by completing Gormon's ending in Outer Expanse. However, these differ from the alpha slug pups. After the player kills a creature in a cycle and progresses to the next cycle, an enemy will respawn after some point in the future. However, sometimes they'll respawn as a harder creature, which is determined by the den, which is also unique, as it's the only way certain enemies are available outside of specific campaigns, such as the strawberry lizard. If the player doesn't have full food pips, they can still sleep in a shelter by holding down. However, next cycle they'll have to get full hunger, including the bonus pips. As well, the game doesn't save, so if you die, you're going back to the cycle where you didn't starve. An item that can be found, and when approached, it'll release insects that immobilize a creature. Organisms that are engineered with a specific function by the ancients. An easy example of this is the glowing ability of the lantern mice, since it really isn't always the best. Every creature in the game is a descendant of a purposed organism. Strange beings found at certain points in specific regions. These are the ancients who, for one reason or another, couldn't ascend from void fluid due to being too attached to some earthly value. And it can vary on whatever the reason is, so it's nothing specific. A guide made by players to help with movements. It is extremely long. It's 117 pages specifically. The lowest point in the world, so deep that the rain won't even reach that deep. It's where players can get the ascension endings of every slugcat, and there's also only one creature that inhabits this area, that being the Guardians. In the base game of Rainworld, Hunter is the only slugcat to not have an introduction cutscene. However, with the release of Downpour, Artificer, Rivulet, and Spearmaster also do not have beginning cutscenes. Red lizards are very good swimmers, being even better than salamanders. Throwing anything at 5 pebbles will result in him giving the player a painless death. A cancer-like creature that's been inflicting 5 pebbles ever since his failed experiment. He was not the first iterator to ever have the rod, though he is of course the most notable given the fact that he's the only iterator we ever see that has the rod. Electricity can travel through water, which can easily be seen by putting an electrified spear into water. Found within the iterator, they act as a tool that the iterator uses to communicate with us. A mod for Rainworld which adds new content. An older method used by the ancients to ascend before void fluid. It involved trying to remove all earthly desires. The duration of immunity the player has after exiting a pipe. Regions in the alpha which got mixed up together to form outskirts. Remnants of this old name can still be seen in the region ID being SU. The most deadly lizard variant found throughout the game. They possess an 100% lethal bite on slugcats, can climb poles, and have spit they can use to knock prey down to them. As well, they will try to hurt any nearby vultures, so that's cool. Karma symbols have meaning, however we only know what 1 through 5 mean thanks to tapestries found in both Moon and Pebbles. Karma 1 is violence, which can be easily confirmed in Artificer's playthrough as they start with 1 karma, and if they get the canon ending of the game, of that campaign, they get locked into only having 1 karma. Karma 2 appears to be lust, Karma 3 appears to be companionship, Karma 4 is gluttony, and Karma 5 is survival. A fan theory based on the fact that there are many kinds of lizards with different colors, and the fact that they're easy to tame, though there really isn't too much evidence to suggest this otherwise. While holding certain corpses through pipes, the player will move much faster for whatever reason. Different states a creature will be in depending on the situation, from aggressive to neutral to fearful to hissing to friendly. Creatures found only within the depths They do not let any creature into the deeper parts of this subregion if they do not have maximum karma. A broadcast in which the iterator Sliver of Straw said they had found a solution to the great problem. However, after the broadcast, all other iterators lost contact with her, and she was soon found to be dead, which had led others to try to recreate her solution and has led to many arguments among iterators. A revolution in technology which happened with the discovery of void fluid. And yeah, that's this layer. I had to cut so much from this because it was just nothing burger after nothing burger entries, which just information that was either A, pretty much explained earlier, or B, nothing information. That's really... I'm going to have a lot of fun with these later layers. If the player brings scavengers through a gate to a region where they do not normally spawn, they will start to spawn there in future cycles. If the player stands still next to a centipede, it may not be able to attack you due to how centipede vision works. A scrapped song which was made when Video Cult had a different vision for Rainworld. It would have played during an event where the player would have had to escape from a daddy longlegs. Mentioned in some Pearl dialogue, industrial complex used to make bone masks, which were masks worn by the ancients. These metal cages located within memory crypts, which, based on the name of the subregion being memory crypts, presumably were used by the ancients to store some form of knowledge. Some creatures in the game have albino variants. Albino jetfish and leviathans can be found within Subterranean, while albino vultures and vulture kings can be found in most regions in Downpour. It's unknown just how long the rain actually lasts when it starts, meaning the time in between cycles could be like a couple of days or even multiple months. Given the fact that they have electrical capabilities, and due to the fact that we know every creature is descended from a purposed organism, it is thought that this is what centipedes' ancestors were used for. A method used to get to the Void Sea without having reached 10 karma. It was acknowledged in Downpour and grants a unique ascension ending if the player uses this to reach the Void Sea without having 10 karma. A rare green overseer which can be found, speculated to be no significant harassments overseer. Official merch made by Sanchi, with there being pins, shirts, posters, and hoodies. I actually have a lot of the plushies, and no, I don't regret the purchase. They're awesome to have. Another iterator who is part of Pebbles and Moon's local broadcast group. On one side, he was a bit more of a jokester, which can be seen during some of his broadcast dialogue with Seven Red Suns. Though on the other side, there's the one that really does care, as can be seen again with his dialogue with Seven Red Suns. As well, during Hunter's campaign, he's the one that just sends Hunter on their mission to deliver the green neuron to Moon. An arena mode where the player can place down anything that they've unlocked from the campaign. The player can find arena unlocks throughout the map, some being only unlockable by certain slug cats. What it says, but I think it's just interesting to take a moment to look through some of these, as I imagine most people don't go out of their way through the wiki to look at them. Available through limited time games, this has so far been the only time that you could own a physical copy of Rainworld. An unused arena game mode where two players would have to compete to see who can get the most rocks in their nest. The name Slugcat does not originate from the developers, instead being a fan name given that just stuck. The disease that inflicts Hunter is confirmed to be rot. This can easily be seen with the Hunter Longlegs enemy, which the player can find the enemy in the room as Gorman, wherever they would have died during during the final cycle. The Kickstarter backing reward was to design a creature. The result of one was the lantern mice, and some of the others that we know about are Brother Longlegs, Daddy Longlegs, Pulsipede, Scavenger. Throughout the main area of Rainworld, the player doesn't usually find any other slugcats aside from slug pups in a few campaigns. Which the reason that we don't see many more is that the gate connecting from the main facility that the game takes place in and the outside world, which outer expanse, is closed until the time that Gourmand meets Five Pebbles, which he opens the gate so Gorman can get out, and once Gorman gets back to the other slugcats, he encourages them to migrate elsewhere for better food. So there aren't any living nearby that would enter the facility aside from the few that do end up back in the facility, aka Rivulet and Saint. The texture for void worms is just an edited picture of corn, which, yeah, sounds very silly, but it's not like the first time in a video game where we used a real world photo for something that it isn't. It's just a silly thing, which, yeah. A once scrapped feature, which in the early days supposedly had a big lore. Nowadays, they only appear in the past. Only one appears in the past version of Garbage Waste during Artificer and Spearmaster's campaign. A music video made by Video Gold for an Adult Swim event. A scrapped scavenger village that would have been in Garbage Waste that would have had this scavenger. The village concept was most likely reused later on for Metropolis and its scavenger infestation, and the enlightened scavenger could have been reworked into the scavenger chief. No, they cannot. They can extend their breath underwater by using bubble weaves, and Rivulet also just has a naturally longer time that they can survive underwater thanks to the gills they have. As well, Saint technically doesn't need to breathe underwater while using their ascension ability, but even that is only temporary. Well, 7 out of 8 later is done, and man am I having to cut out a lot of these later topics. I wonder how many there will be on the last layer, since it's the last layer of an iceberg. It's gonna be a lot of crackpot conspiracy theory stuff. Yeah, everything on this layer for the base iceberg was just Super Mario 64 Wario apparition levels of stuff, so instead I'm gonna just do a bonus layer filled with entries I think up of. An enemy added in Downpour. It really wouldn't be worth talking about aside from the fact that this enemy is quite absurd and obscure and easy to miss in most playthroughs, as they are a stationary enemy that of course doesn't have an arena unlock, and they only appear in a select few rooms which the player can just easily avoid. Since the other lizards had their own entries, let's talk about the Downpour ones. Caramel lizards are larger than most lizards, have a leaping attack and a spitting capabilities, as well as they also visually are unique since they have 6 legs, which that's neat. Eel lizards are an aquatic type of lizard found in water, unsurprisingly. They do have the ability to walk on walls, but that's rare since they don't typically come out of water. And they also are visually unique because they only have 2 legs and a very long tail. Strawberry lizards are smaller and slower than most lizards, although they possess a tongue ability like the Sinks, which they can use to pull themselves around. Train lizards aren't in any of the main campaigns and are only present in secret campaign, meaning they aren't canon, but they're still lizards, so let's talk about them. They're even larger than red lizards and are extremely fast and durable, and can climb poles. They also have a mass that's so heavy that it can cause the screen to shake sometimes. While the Green Overseer was brought up earlier, with the release of Downpour there are more colors that can be found. Red, which belongs to 7 red suns. It guides the Spearmaster towards 5 pebbles. And the other 2 colors are white and purple, but we don't know the owner of these currently. Found in Expedition mode, the player can unlock a rainbow aura for their slugcats by completing this Easter egg. The player must take each slugcat to a specific point on the map and leave them there for a couple seconds, then make it back to its shelter and hibernate. The location each slugcat must go to can be found in the gameplay changes section of the Expedition manual. If the player somehow manages to ascend as in, they will be met with the dating sim, which, not getting into too much detail, but that is a trip of its own. Vultures that are demasked but still alive have unique behaviors. They will attempt to hunt down the creature that took their mask. They can move from room to room to do this in between cycles as well, until they die. Other vultures will also attack demasked vultures for whatever reason. I don't know, there's probably some lore behind it. Like Overseers, Inspectors also come in multiple colors, although aside from blue and yellow, the other 2 colors can only be seen in Expedition mode, which are orange and green. Green most certainly belongs to no significant harassments, since, the Green Overseer. And orange could be 7 red suns, which, while his Overseer is red, the Inspector being orange would, I guess, make sense, since if it's aggroed onto the player, you couldn't tell, since Overseers that are aggroed turn red. I mean, Inspectors. While usually only found in Rubicon, the player can craft firebug eggs as Gourmand to give to Moon for some unique dialogue. Out of all the things Gourmand can craft, the Singularity Bomb is one of the hardest and most useful. To craft this, the player first needs to make a grenade, then the Karma Flower and a grenade to make a firebug egg, then that firebug egg and another Karma Flower to get the Singularity Bomb, which... have fun with that once you make it, just don't get caught in the blast radius. When playing Expedition mode as Monk or Survivor, they have a chance to spawn in Metropolis as their starting location. Elite Scavengers and the Chief Scavenger have their own unique masks. The Elite Scavengers have 3 different styles of masks that they can wear, with, of course, being multiple colors. They're most likely altered Vulture masks, and gameplay-wise, they just function as Vulture masks. The Chief Scavenger mask is another modified Vulture mask, which visually is also adorned with pearls. And gameplay-wise, it functions similarly to a regular mask, Vulture mask, with some added benefits, being that they cause all scavengers to flee from Artificer. And for Monk and Survivor who can get this mask thanks to Expedition mode, scavengers will become friendly towards them. A food item in Downpour, which for most players they just needed to get 2 food pips. However, they also have a unique effect where they can repel wormgrass. But keep in mind that it doesn't make you immortal to wormgrass, so still be a bit careful and don't just hang around in wormgrass while thinking you're safe because, oh, I have a gooey duck. A secret unlockable arena item that the player can get by completing Artificer's Arena challenges. While I've mentioned it before in previous entries, I still haven't explained much about this campaign. The player can access it by typing Sophanthiel if they're on computer, and if you're on console you have to put in Morse code, which... watch other people's videos for it, since I don't know the explanation for it, and other people have explained it better. As for the campaign, every region has been changed in some way, some receiving more noticeable changes than the other, and it's overall very hard, and it really doesn't take itself seriously at all. Rubicon is a region that usually doesn't have slug pups in it, since the campaign it features in, being Saints, doesn't have naturally spawning slug pups. However, if the player were to allow slug pup spawns in the region, they would always spawn, since the rate is 100%. It's referenced by a developer commentary stating, as the title of this entry is, "All slug pups go to hell." These two have similar physical traits, which is not a coincidence, which is confirmed by the developers. This leads to some interesting lore speculation, like, did the ancients know about the void worms, and could they have been the inspiration for leviathans? And with that, the final entry, this wraps up the iceberg. And I know I may have cut out quite a large amount of entries due to them not fitting, and don't get mad at the creator for this. It's not really a big deal, it's an iceberg at the end of the day. And if you've also stuck around for this long, I hope that you enjoyed it, and usually I don't ask for likes and shares and stuff, but I put a lot of effort into this, and I really do want it to do well, so please do share with anybody who you think would be interested. Other than that, have a good rest of your day. Yeah, that's all from me. Goodbye.